In 1985, Michael Jackson made a business decision that would earn him hundreds of millions of dollars. It would also cost him one of the most important friendships of his life. And here's what most people don't know. Paul McCartney actually told Michael exactly how to do it. He handed him the playbook. He explained the entire strategy over dinner, and Michael listened, took notes, and then did something Paul never saw coming. He bought the one thing Paul wanted more than anything else in the world: the Beatles catalog. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this wasn't just a business deal. This was a betrayal that Paul McCartney has never fully forgiven. Let's dive in. Let me paint the picture for you. It's 1981. Michael Jackson is already a superstar, but he's about to go stratospheric with Thriller. Paul McCartney is a living legend, former Beatle, one of the most successful songwriters in history. And they're working together. They recorded The Girl Is Mine for Thriller, then Say 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 for Paul's album. These weren't just collaborations, these were genuine moments of creative partnership between two of the biggest names in music. They spent time together in studios, at each other's homes, on video shoots. And during one of those moments, Paul McCartney gave Michael Jackson a piece of advice that would change everything. Paul told Michael about music publishing. He explained how the real money in the music industry isn't just in performing or recording, it's in owning the songs themselves. The publishing rights. Every time a song plays on the radio, in a commercial, in a movie, the person who owns the publishing gets paid. Paul had been buying up publishing catalogs for years. He owned the rights to songs by Buddy Holly, Carl Perkins, and dozens of other artists. He told Michael this was the smartest investment in music. Buy songs that will keep earning money forever. Now, here's the kicker. During that conversation, Paul specifically mentioned one catalog he desperately wanted to own: the Beatles catalog, his own songs, the music he wrote with John Lennon. Yesterday. Hey Jude. Let It Be. Come Together. Some of the most valuable copyrights in music history, and Paul didn't own them. None of the Beatles did. Here's what actually happened to those rights. In 1969, the Beatles publishing company, Northern Songs, which held the rights to most Lennon-McCartney compositions, went public. Then it got sold. The Beatles tried to buy it back, but they got outbid. The catalog ended up owned by a British media mogul named Lou Grade, who later folded it into a company called ATV Music. By the early 1980s, ATV Music controlled approximately 4,000 songs, including 251 Beatles compositions, and Paul McCartney had been trying to buy it back for over a decade. But that's not all. Paul told Michael the catalog might come up for sale soon. ATV Music's parent company was restructuring. There were rumors the catalog could hit the market. Paul was positioning himself to make a bid. He was assembling investors, talking to banks, preparing for what would be the deal of a lifetime, getting his songs back. And he told all of this to Michael Jackson. Think about what that means. Paul didn't just explain the concept of music publishing. He told Michael about a specific opportunity. He identified the exact asset he was targeting. He essentially handed Michael a treasure map and said, "This is where I'm going to dig." Here's where it gets interesting. Michael listened. He absorbed everything, and then he went silent on the topic. He didn't tell Paul he was interested. He didn't mention he had his own plans. He just filed that information away and kept working on their friendship. They finished their collaborations. They did press together. Paul had no idea what was coming. In 1984, ATV Music officially went up for sale. The asking price was reportedly around $40 to $50 million. Paul McCartney immediately started putting together his bid. He approached Yoko Ono, John Lennon's widow, to see if she wanted to partner with him. She declined. He talked to George Harrison and Ringo Starr. They weren't interested in investing that kind of money, so Paul had to find outside investors, which complicated the deal. Meanwhile, Michael Jackson made one phone call to his attorney, John Branca. John Branca was one of the sharpest entertainment lawyers in the business. When Michael told him he wanted to buy the ATV catalog, Branca immediately understood the opportunity. He also understood the risk. This was $47.5 million. Even for Michael Jackson, fresh off the success of Thriller, that was a massive investment. But Branca ran the numbers. The catalog generated about $3 million a year in revenue from royalties, licensing, and synchronization rights. That meant it would pay for itself in about 15 years, and after that, it was pure profit, forever. Michael gave Branca the green light to negotiate. Now here's where it gets deeply personal. Michael never told Paul he was bidding. Paul found out through the industry grapevine that Michael Jackson was in the running for the catalog. At first, he didn't believe it. This was his friend, the guy he'd collaborated with, the guy he'd invited into his home, shared meals with, talked about music and family and dreams. But it was true. Michael was bidding, and he was bidding aggressively. The auction came down to two serious contenders: Paul McCartney, backed by a group of investors, and Michael Jackson, backed by his own fortune and some strategic financing. And here's the truth about what happened next. Michael outbid Paul, not by a little. He came in with an offer that was clean, fast, and decisive. On August 10, 1985, Michael Jackson purchased ATV Music Publishing for $47.5 million. He now owned the Beatles catalog. He owned Paul McCartney's songs. Think about what that means. Every time Yesterday played on the radio, Michael got paid. Every time a commercial used All You Need Is Love, Michael approved it and collected the fee. Every time a movie wanted Hey Jude, they had to negotiate with Michael Jackson. Paul McCartney, the man who wrote those songs, who lived those experiences, who created that music, had to ask Michael Jackson's company for permission to use his own work. Paul was devastated. He later said in interviews that he felt betrayed. He called Michael and asked why he did it. Michael's response was simple. He said it was business, nothing personal, just a smart investment. Paul didn't see it that way. To Paul, this wasn't about the money. This was about legacy. This was about his life's work. This was personal. But wait. Michael didn't just buy the catalog and sit on it. He used it aggressively. He licensed Beatles songs for commercials, something Paul had always refused to do. In 1987, Nike used Revolution in a sneaker commercial. Paul was furious. He had always protected the Beatles' music from commercial exploitation. He believed their songs were art, not jingles. Michael believed they were assets that should generate maximum revenue. The licensing fees started rolling in, millions of dollars a year. Michael was making more money from Paul's songs than Paul ever had. This is where it gets even better. The friendship didn't just cool off. It ended. Completely. Paul stopped taking Michael's calls. They never worked together again. In interviews over the years, Paul has been asked about Michael dozens of times, and every time, there's a hurt in his voice. He said things like, "I think it's dodgy to do something like that, to be someone's friend and then to buy the rug they're standing on." He's also said, "The annoying thing is I was the one who told him how valuable those catalogs could be." That word, annoying. That's British understatement for devastated. Here's what nobody tells you about this deal. Michael Jackson didn't just hurt Paul personally. He changed the power dynamics of the entire music industry. Before this purchase, artists generally didn't own their own catalogs, but at least the catalogs stayed within the industry infrastructure. Record labels, publishing companies, legacy entities. Michael proved that a performer could become a publisher, that one artist could own another artist's work, and that set off a chain reaction. Suddenly, everyone wanted to own catalogs. Publishing became the new gold rush, but that's not all. Michael's purchase also revealed something about him that people didn't fully understand before. He was ruthless in business. Everyone knew he was a genius performer, a perfectionist artist. But this deal showed he was also a calculated businessman who could separate personal relationships from financial opportunities. Paul thought they were friends. Michael thought they were colleagues. That's the difference. Let me break down exactly what Michael gained from this deal. First, a revenue stream that would outlast his performing career. Even if he never released another album, the catalog would keep earning. Second, leverage and control. Owning the Beatles catalog gave him negotiating power with record labels, film studios, advertisers. He controlled how the songs were used, when, and who got access. Third, massive wealth accumulation. By 1995, the catalog was valued at over $500 million. Here's exactly what Paul lost. First, his own songs, the music he created, the memories attached to them, the ability to decide their fate. Second, millions in potential earnings and creative control. He had to watch his songs get used in ways he never would have approved. Third, a friendship and his dignity. Having to ask someone else for permission to use your own work is humiliating. Now here's the moment that really defined the fracture. In 1989, Michael and Paul were both attending an industry event. They ended up in the same room. People who were there said the tension was palpable. Michael approached Paul, tried to make small talk. Paul was polite but cold. At one point, Michael made a joke about how he was taking good care of the songs. Paul didn't laugh. He just looked at Michael and said something like, "You certainly are. Making a lot of money off them." Then he walked away. That was the last real conversation they ever had. Fast forward to the 2000s. Michael's financial situation started deteriorating. He had massive debts, legal problems, and a lifestyle that cost tens of millions a year to maintain. In 2006, he needed cash desperately. So he sold half of his stake in the ATV catalog to Sony for $95 million, creating a joint venture called Sony ATV. The catalog was now valued at around $1 billion. Michael had turned $47.5 million into half ownership of a billion-dollar asset. Even in crisis, he made money. Here's the truth about what this tells us. Michael Jackson understood something about wealth that most artists never grasp. Performing is temporary. Publishing is forever. You can only tour so many years. Your voice ages, your body wears down, trends change. But a great song, that earns money for generations. Michael saw that. He acted on it. And he prioritized that financial security over personal relationships. But wait, there's one more layer to this story. After Michael died in 2009, his estate still owned half of Sony ATV. In 2016, Michael's estate sold that remaining stake to Sony for $750 million. The full catalog was valued at $1.5 billion. That $47.5 million investment had multiplied over 30 times. Michael's children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, inherited hundreds of millions of dollars directly from that Beatles catalog purchase. The decision Michael made in 1985, the one that destroyed his friendship with Paul, ended up securing his family's financial future for generations. Here's exactly how to think about it. Michael Jackson saw an opportunity and took it. Paul McCartney saw a betrayal and never forgave it. Both perspectives are valid. In business, Michael was brilliant. In friendship, he was ruthless. The question is, was it worth it? Financially, absolutely. Personally, that's harder to measure. So remember that conversation I mentioned at the beginning, the one where Paul told Michael about music publishing. That was the moment. That's when Michael saw the opportunity. Paul thought he was sharing wisdom with a younger artist, mentoring him, bringing him into the inner circle of music business sophistication. Michael thought he was receiving intelligence about a target acquisition. Same conversation, completely different interpretations. The Beatles catalog stayed in Michael's portfolio until his death. He made hundreds of millions of dollars from it. He licensed the songs strategically, grew the value systematically, and used it as collateral for loans when he needed cash. He treated it exactly like what it was, a business asset. Paul spent decades trying to buy it back. He never could. Even today, Paul McCartney doesn't own the full rights to the songs he wrote. Sony does. That's Michael's legacy in the publishing world. Here's the final piece of the puzzle. In recent years, Paul has managed to reclaim some of his publishing rights through legal maneuvers and copyright law changes, but he'll never own them all. Some of those songs will remain in corporate hands forever, and every time Paul performs Hey Jude in concert, there's a licensing component tied to that catalog history. Michael's decision in 1985 is still affecting Paul McCartney's career in 2025. Michael Jackson's $47.5 million Beatles catalog purchase wasn't just a smart business move. It was a calculated play that prioritized wealth over friendship, legacy over loyalty, and long-term financial security over short-term personal relationships. Paul gave him the map, Michael found the treasure, and their friendship was the price. So, there you have it. The real reason Michael Jackson's Beatles catalog purchase destroyed his friendship with Paul McCartney. It wasn't just about the money, it was about trust, betrayal, and the moment Michael chose business over brotherhood. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.